Maybe I'll move over.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're actually on our 10th stop of our tour of Tshuva. And Julia, I'll send you the notes later if anybody wants them, like a summary of everything we did.
Great.
Okay. A non-edited summary, so excuse the spelling. Any grammar teachers here, English teachers, don't send it to them. Okay. I don't have time to get fancy and the exact. Okay, so the 10th stop, and then we're gonna sum it all together into the last ideas and concepts that I want to give over before Rosh Hashanah. And we were in the middle. We actually were in the middle of it, and that was the Piazetzner's Rebbe, the Eish Kodesh. It was instructing us, look at Yonah. That's Tshuva, right? Tshuva is a person is put in the same situation again, as the Rambam writes, and they make the better choice. Okay, and that's what Tshuva Gemura is. The Rambam says, and that's what we're constantly doing within our lives. Like if we really want to analyze our lives, we can look and see that we have very, very similar tests, nisyonos, over and over and over again. And we think like, oh, if we're going to move, right, we're not going to fight with the neighbors. Or if we're going to do this, then we're going to, we'll switch jobs and this boss it will work out, or this coworker, right? And all of a sudden, like it pops up another, the same thing over and over again until we're going to deal with it. Because just like Yonah tried to run away from a tikkun or a tafkid, HaKadosh Baruch Hu never lets us run away from that. He always brings us back to it, right? So at a certain point, we have a choice. We're going to accept this is the mission of our life, and we're going to work on it, and we're going to say, okay, this is what I need to do, and I'm not going to look at everybody else's, right? Rabbi Nachman teaches, "Usfartem lachem," count for yourself, right? So there's a halacha that a person, even though they count Sfira Omer in Shul, and a person could be in Shul and hear Sfira Omer being counted in Shul, they still need to count for themselves. Why? Because Usfartem Falashon Sipur, story, narrative. It has to be your own story, right? We have to stop counting other people's stories, stop looking into what everybody else is, doing and going on, and look within ourselves and say, okay, what is my story? Lech lecha, go into yourself. What am I here for, right? What is my unique tafkid? There's a story that I heard, and this is actually a true story, which I heard third hand, meaning the person who it happened to told it to my friend's son. My friend's son told it to my friend, and my friend told it to me. So that's like third cousins, right? Second cousins, something like that. Okay. So it's a pretty accurate story. And I think I shared this story. Maybe I did. I don't remember, because it's a story I love telling in Chodesh Elul. It happened in Chodesh Elul. I think I did share it. Okay. So you'll let me know if I didn't, and we'll just do it really fast. But somebody, a tourist had come from America, and he had learned in Yeshiva Smir many, many years ago, like we're talking like 30, 40 years, let's say 45 years ago, when it was not common that people had telephones, right? Those of you who remember, before those plastic monstrous Bezik telephones existed in homes, there were no telephones in homes, right? Remember, you had to go to the Tachana Merkazit with a bag full of asimonim, and it's like again and again and again and again. And the whole conversation, in America was, can you hear me? Oh, wow, I hear you. Or I can't hear you. Could you talk louder? I can't hear you. Wow, could you believe you hear me? It was either I can't hear you or I hear you, right? The whole conversation, and it's like,
I'm standing behind you going, no.
Or listening to your private conversation. Yeah. Hi, I'm getting married. I'm like, really, you are, right? So yeah, so in those days when it wasn't common to have telephones, and this American tourist, when he was younger, he had learned in Yeshiva Smir, and he had a Yerushalmi Chavrusa, and he knew his Yerushalmi Chavrusa's name, and he knew his address, Baharan 19 in Meir Sharim there, but he didn't have a phone then, so it's not like he could come in and call him. So he comes and decided he's going to go find him. But just like, the old city of Tzfat, Meir Sharim, you have to either, where you're going or you don't, right? I mean, how many of us, during the tourist season, when we had tourists, right? You go to Shul Friday night, how many people stopped you and asked, I don't know, how do they know that we're from Tzfat? They just figured out, like, oh, you're at Tzfati, right? Kind of, I really still have no idea where I'm going, right? But how do I get, to the Arishal? How do I get here? You can't, you try to explain to people how to go, and it's like, God, they're gonna get so lost. Yashar, va'az tishal. You try. Every time, since I heard this story, whenever I give someone directions, I ask them for mechila if I sent them the wrong way too. Like, so the guy is, after he eats lunch, it's around 1:32 in a hot Elul day, and he's looking for this Rehov Baharan, and he can't find it. So he starts asking people, and each person tells him, Yashar va'az tishal. Finally, he sees this old man who's walking with a cane, and he asks him, where's Rehov Baharan 17? And he goes, come, I'll take you. And he links arms with him, and he starts walking with him, and they turn right and they turn left, and he had really gotten really off track. And finally, after a long, hot walk, where the tourist constantly says, just tell me where to go, I'll go. He goes, no, I'm gonna take you. He brings him to Rehov Baharan 17. And the tourist looks at the elderly man and says to him, why didn't you just tell me like everybody else, Yashar va'az tishal? And the man said, this morning, when I'd said, L'David Hashem Ori, and I got to the end, Hoyreini Hashem darkecha, Hashem, show me your path. I said, what if I've been off mark my whole life? I've done, I have this great family, Baruch Hashem, but maybe I was really supposed to do chesed. Maybe I was supposed to be a Tehillim Zager. Maybe I was supposed to, learn more. Maybe I didn't do what I'm supposed to do. And maybe this is my last El. So I said, Hashem, Hoyreini Hashem darkecha. Hashem, don't tell me Yashar va'az tishal. I want you to take me by the hand, and I want you to walk me through my shar hatshuva, through my tikva. So when you asked me for direction, I said, this is my opportunity to show Hashem exactly what I want. And it says Hashem tzilcha. Hashem is our shadow. The way that we behave with other people in this world, that's how Hashem behaves with us. So I said, I'm going to take this opportunity. I'm going to walk you all the way there, and I'm going to hold your hand. I'm going to show you exactly. I'm not going to leave you alone. I'm going to bring you to where you want to get, where you need to get. And that's what we're asking Hashem, Hashem, because each of us, we're here for a reason, right? We're here for a very specific reason, which unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, we're not born with a tag that says, what our mission is going to be. Your mission, your tikkun is X, Y, and Z. We don't have access to our previous gilgulim, and that's on purpose, right? And we don't know exactly. Part of our mission of being here is to discover why we're here. And Hashem brings us wherever we're supposed to be. So that's the last stop of Tshuva, is to go through that gate and make the correction that we need to do, just like Yonah, we're going to talk about more at the boot camp, right? Yonah was given a very, very specific mission, and his mission didn't really fit with his hashkafa, his worldview. And our mission doesn't always, right? We have expectations, right? We think life is going to be A, B, C. We have these dreams of what life is going to bring. And in the end of the day, life is usually one big surprise party, right? Surprise, right? You thought that X, Y, and Z is going to happen. Surprise, right? So there's no balloons, but there is cake a lot. I mean, you should have cake in your freezer, maybe some ice cream or other comfort foods, right? Sorry, I forgot who I'm talking to, right? Whatever comfort foods you have, right? But that, what? Miso soup? Okay. All right. Okay. So that's the 10th. So when we're preparing for Rosh Hashanah, and when we go into Rosh Hashanah, we have to understand what we're doing on Rosh Hashanah. On Rosh Hashanah, we're actually joining Hashem, and we're creating ourselves and our year with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's on Rosh Hashanah that man was created, not the world. Not the whole world wasn't created in one day, right? But it's the 6th day. It's the day that Hashem said, Na'aseh Adam, let us make man. So the simple explanation of let us make man, Rashi explains there, is that Hashem asked the angels permission, because when you have a guest, you don't bring in another guest without asking the first permission. So this is actually a very dangerous Rashi, right? Don't share this with your kids, because when I made the mistake of sharing this with one of my kids once, his reaction was, well, you shouldn't have had other kids without asking me permission. Because I'm the oldest and I was here first. Yes. I'm the oldest and I was here first. And You should have,
Definitely a first reaction.
you should have asked me permission. One of his gems. Yeah, he has some good ones. I kept a little book of it, of all his chokhmot. In any event, that was one of his finer ones. But the deeper explanation is that Hashem is talking to us. Hashem talks to man and says, let's make you together. Let's co-create you. Okay. Now, co-creation doesn't mean equal partners, right? But co-creation means that Hashem gave us a tremendous amount of free choice that we can exercise in creating who we are and what we're going to do. So we say every time after we blow the shofar on Rosh Hashanah, we say Hayom Haras Olam. Today is the so it's translated in the Art School's birthday, but you should write them a letter and tell them that that is a mistranslation, conception. It means Hayom Haras Olam. Today the world is conceived. Haras from Lashon Hirayon, pregnancy, from Har, from mountain. Okay, that's what it actually means, and it's very important because it's not the birthday of the world; it's the conception of the world. We even know this that there's a machlokas in the Gemara, right? When was the world created? Was it created on Rosh Hashanah or was it created in Nisan, right? So in thought, it was conceived in Tishrei, but it actually came to fruition physically in Nisan. Everything about Rosh Hashanah is Rosh, is head, is mind. It's what's going on in our head. So Hayom Haras Olam, today is the conception of the world. Today, and we know that when a child is conceived, right, what's going on in the father and the mother's physical bodies, right? God forbid parents who are addicted to drugs or are taking certain medications or have exposure to certain toxins, and adarabah, the opposite, right? A woman who has a good folic acid and etc., right? That has tremendous hashpah on the child, right? And even according to the Kabbalah, right? The mindset and the mind frame of the parents, right? The amount of love that the parents have between each other when creating this child is going to affect the soul of the child, okay? We can go off on a whole tangent on that, but let's stay. So the Rambam says that Tshuva begins in the heart and in the mind, okay? It's actually in the thoughts, and it's aligning our thoughts with the will of Hashem. And doing that is the path of Tshuva, which we do on Rosh Hashanah. We're having this realignment, okay? So a man one time came to the Baal Shem Tov, and he said to him, how can I change the future, right? You know how there's this misconception that like Hasidic masters can change the future, right? Or something like that, or that's not actually what it's about, right? It's about, dealing correctly and seeing Hashem and bringing consciousness within everything that happens, right? Now that happens to change the future, but that's not the point. The point is to bring consciousness of Hashem no matter what situation a person is in. So he said to the Baal Shem Tov, how do I change the future? So the Baal Shem Tov told him, if you shift your mindset, the world will respond accordingly, okay? And that's, again, going back to say, if you switch your mindset, the world will respond accordingly. Okay?
That's the whole new age stuff.
Well, it's not new age, it's from, the Baal Shem Tov. Right. But the thing is, again,
Think good, be good. Is that Jewish originally?
Lachso Tov Yeto. Yes, it's the concept of the what's that called? The Chamsa, right? What's the Chamsa? The Chamsa is my hand is open to receive Shefa. A person has to be open to receiving Hashem's goodness. When we say kosher zivugu shel be'en adam, kosher mizonotav, a person's parnasa, a person's match, a person's health is as difficult as kriyas yamsov. That's actually kfira, right? How could you say something is hard for Hashem? Nothing is hard for Hashem. Hashem can give us 10 agurot. Hashem could give us $1 billion, right? We picked the second one, right? But Hashem, nothing is too hard for Hashem. It's the same thing. $1 billion trillion is the same thing to Hashem as 10 shekels. There's no difference. Nothing is hard for Hashem. So what does it mean that a person's match is hard and a person's health, digestive health is hard, and a person's parnasa is hard? It means that we don't make an opening. We say, no, I'm okay, right? I don't need help, right? I'm good, thank you. I don't need help. I don't need other people. we limit ourselves in terms of shefa very often. That's the first thing we want to do when we're not having shefa, is to, go into the mode and the mindset of ein od milvado, right? And that mindset shifts, and everything responds in accordance to it. We open up channels. So what we focus on in our mind manifests in the world, okay? Because what we focus on is what we are going to notice, okay? So if I am focused on the good in the world, right? I mean, now every day we have a choice, okay? Minute to minute, we have a choice. Do we want to focus on the crazy miracles that Hashem is doing for us? Or do I want to focus on the fear, okay? Now, it doesn't mean that we don't have fear. Please, I will never tell anyone not to be afraid, okay? It is normal to be afraid, and Hashem wants us to experience a certain amount of fear so that we turn to Him. But what are we going to focus on, right? Are we going to focus on the miracles? I mean, we are living in times of, we just had miracles, huge miracles, 2 hours ago, 3 hours ago, right? We're constantly experiencing these major, some of them we know about, some of them we don't even know about, right? But we're having miracles. The fact that after all these years, Baruch Hashem, one of our main enemies, right, was completely destroyed, and in a way, wow. I mean, mamish miraculous, and not one of our chayalim, not a hair, was hurt. When we say in Tzaddik Aleph, if we think Hashem is not listening to our tefillos, Yipol elef mitzidcha urivava miyiminecha, 1,000 will fall from your right and tens of thousands from your left, and nothing will happen to you. That's what, like, we experience this all the time. I mean, I struggle with this all. My sons who were in Gaza, and being relocated now to the north. Which actually, close to home, there's something nice about it. Like, at least they're going to be, that's if we want to go visit them, it's not like a 4-hour drive, right? It's a little bit closer to home. So, one second. So, they lost a lot of friends, not one and not two, and they have friends that are severely injured. And it hurts. All of that is hurt, and it's very painful, and it's going to very much affect the davening on Rosh Hashanah. But I also have to focus, and this is where am I going to put my main focus, okay? Because you can't focus on so many things. You get lost, okay? That's like an invitation for ADD, all right? So we can't focus on so many things. So I have a choice. What am I going to focus on? Am I going to focus on the miracles, right? And there were miracles, miracle after miracle after miracle after miracle. One example, my son was in, one of my sons was in tanks. His tank, they got an RPG, right? And they have this new technology, and literally nothing happened to them. They had to take it's called a raincoat. If you ever saw Star Wars, it's a ratio, okay? And it's like, really? Yeah, it's freaky. Wow. Like, we saw it. She demonstrated it to us, but don't tell anybody. So he took his tank out, okay, and the tank he took it out of Gaza to fix it up, to work on it after it got hit, right? While he's working on it, for whatever reason, another tank started up next to him without warning in the masach, where they fixed the tank, and he got a ton of rocks and pebbles in his eyes. Okay, now but you understand that he like, it's almost like comical, right? He comes out of Gaza after he was hit by an RPG, fine, unscratched, and he got all of this rocks and debris in his eyes. Now, he actually was thrilled because he got over a week off, right? And he got to take a real shower. And it's
a story that you told us about getting bit by a
scorpion. That was my oldest son, yeah. He was also thrilled about that, right? He got to change his socks and use a real bathroom. And he was like actually quite, and Baruch Hashem, a miracle. At first they thought they were going to have to operate on his eye. They didn't need an operation. They just like literally, and we want to hear the funniest part. As they're pouring this solution on his eyes to take out the rocks, he fell asleep because he was so exhausted because he was sleeping for an hour and a half a night for over a month. While they're pouring water and solution on his eye, he fell asleep, right? So these are tremendous miracles, tremendous miracles. I mean, it's what makes them heroes is not just that they do this, is that they do it with simcha, b'tuv levav. They see it as, they don't think of themselves as, oh wow, like they're just doing what I'm supposed to do.
And they're doing it with all their might, all their koach, all their love for Hashem.
Yeah, and your son's in Givati.
Is that amazing? When you talk about how excited your son is.
My son is so into it. And he's going to Gaza, mamash old man.
When they took my son out of Gaza to do another job, he was like, no, no, go back. I'm gonna go back. I'm like, Hashem answered my tefillos that you're out. Okay, so we have to choose what we want to focus on, right? Because the more we focus and recognize miracles, the more we open ourselves up for miracles. And that's really the bottom line of what we're going to talk about today. So we see every time when Hashem created something, right? It starts from a thought, kiviyachol, right? Vayomer Elokim, speech is born in thought. So Hashem creates everything in Bereshis through Vayomer Elokim, through the act of creation starts with the thought. So the world begins with divine thought, and it's an expression of a speech, and thoughts create the seed of creation. Okay, thoughts are the seed of creation. So the Zohar HaKadosh tells us that our mental focus on Rosh Hashanah is the blueprint for the coming year. Rosh, everything is in the head. Why are we so careful not to eat all these foods? And we do eat certain foods, right? Egoz is a nut, right? And egoz is the gematria of chet. It's actually almost the gematria of chet, right? It's missing one added up. Okay.
So that means you can eat it?
No.
No.
But
dip the apple in honey.
exactly.
It's like 5-year-olds and we're 80 years old and doing it.
Because we want to keep our thoughts sweet. We don't want to say, oh, right? This is hot. This is bitter, right? We don't want to get to a place of bitter. Everything is sweet. We want to keep our minds focused on sweet, 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 sweet. And we say these beautiful simanim, right? When we say yistalku sonenu, why? We have a lot to think about there, right? And think about how much power our beats had last year when we said yistalku sonenu. And don't think it's an accident that right before Rosh Hashanah, there's been this mass chisulim, mass goodbye and good riddance, right? To all of these enemies, right? Hashem is telling us something. And what I hear with this is that, look what I can do for you. Look what I can do for you. I can do these, like, before all of this happened, it's still gonna be hard to go into Rosh Hashanah, right? It's still gonna be hard to go into Yom Kippur. It's still gonna be hard to go into Sukkot, and it's still gonna be hard to go into Simchas Torah. But the fact that Hashem has done all these miracles for us, compacted, the end of the year, Hashem is giving us haramas rosh. He's giving us koyach to daven. He's giving us koyach to turn to him and to ask for more, right? And to say, because when this is how we'll get into it, the more we acknowledge, the more we think, the more we open up the Sharei Shamayim. So we read in the Parsha, Lo b'shamayim hi. It's not in the heavens, right? Where is it? It's in our minds, right? It's up to us. Ki korov elecha hadavar ma'od. It's so close to us. How close is it to us? It's our thoughts. That's where it is. There was a tzaddik once who went and he saw how a blacksmith worked. And he was so awed by the way that the blacksmith strikes the metal and he makes a shape. And he said, wow, this is exactly how our thoughts work, right? When we think something, we are striking and we are creating a shape. We are creating, we know today it's called neural pathways, right? The more we think about something, the more we think about it again, we create these super highways of electricity within our brain, which bring us to positive thoughts. So each thought that we entertain shapes the world around us, okay? Just like the blacksmith.
Like I was walking with the soul on Shabbos this morning with my friend. It was they on the street. So we were saying, "Ain't oatmeal milvado, ain't oatmeal milvado until we can do the soul." And that's all you can do. You know, it's walking.
You didn't lie down in the middle of the road?
No, we didn't.
Okay, I was yesterday.
Because we just walking and saying, and came to the soul.
We had just left Tzfat. We were at the, the Kikar, where you go out right past the Ezor Tasiyah, and the siren went off. So my husband was from Bnei Brak, who like, to him, sirens are just like, okay. I'm like, pull over, pull over. He pulled over, and I'm like, I'm getting out of the car, and I'm gonna crouch, and I'm like, I'm too fat, and I'm too old to crouch down. It is more dangerous. This is not for me.
That's what I said. That's what I said. I'll never get up. I'll go. Yes.
Exactly.
So what you said about
Through Chatzor to Chatzor, and the siren went off, of course. And I was with my son. I'm like, what should we do? Should we stop on the side? What's more dangerous? Should we just keep going? Like, let's just keep going.
And there was this Arab woman who got out also from her car, and she was shaking like a leaf. She's like, how do I get here? How do I get to there? Because the GPS wasn't working in the ways. And I'm like, lady, you need to sit down in your car and do some breathing. And then you drive. Don't drive like this. Anyways, yeah, I'm with you. Not crouching again. Not for me. You're gonna have to bring a manos.
But what you said about fear, just about fear. There's two kinds of fear. Fear of Hashem to do something wrong, or fear of something physical. From my understanding, the fear of Hashem is it's fear of love for Hashem. But physical, if we have bitachon, we don't need to fear anything. We have to be, don't put our life in danger. It's completely different. I'm not afraid, but I don't want to put my life in danger if I need to do certain things. I have to be physical, but I don't think I need to have fear of something. I trust Hashem, whatever Hashem wants to do.
Everybody is afraid of different things. Most people are afraid of fear. That's the greatest fear that we have. Being afraid of fear. But I do believe that Hashem put scary things like snakes, scorpions, and sirens, and bombs into the world to awaken within us, to feel fear, to understand what fear is, to experience the fear, and then turn to Hashem with that fear. But if we're not afraid of anything, right? If we're not afraid of anything, I don't know. To me, like a person needs to be afraid in order to experience Hashem, in order to experience Hashem's protection. And that's, to me, fear, like snakes and all those scary things, are human snakes and snakes that slither. Everyone is different, but those are all awakening calls where Hashem is saying, feel this feeling and take your feelings and turn them to Hashem. So when we were talking about all the different 10 types of tshuva, right? One of the main themes that goes threaded throughout it is as we read in last week's parsha, nitzavim, showing up, okay? Showing up and being present. Returning to one's divine source, tshuva with joy. We said tshuva is a cleansing process. Wait, if you take that, this is going to fall. Tshuva is a cleansing process. Tshuva is a cleansing process. Tshuva as transformation. Tshuva as renewal. And when we said the Sfas Emes, tshuva is a continuous, ongoing refinement. Okay? But the ikar is to show up. And all of those different stages of tshuva are all done within our heads, okay? Our head and our heart, but it starts with the head. So the Arizla HaKadosh, again, takes what the Zohar says and reminds us that our mental focus on Rosh Hashanah sets the course for the year ahead, okay? So HaKadosh Baruch Hu is telling us, Na'aseh Adam, let's make you together. So a quote from the Alter Rebbe says that the king is in the field and all we need to do is approach. Our thoughts are the first step in this approach. Okay, Rav Kook tells us, when one's mind is pure and holy, it shines great light into the world. Okay, going back to another idea of the Piazetzner Rebbe, the Piazetzner Rebbe talks about Kain. Okay, now Kain is a very, very shocking and disappointing and horrifying story. Okay, as you know, he's the first one who commits homicide, murder, right? And there's a special word for it when somebody kills their brother. What's the word?
Fratricide.
Fratricide, right? From fraternity, from brotherhood, yeah. And how did he get to that? how did he get to that state to be able to do that? So by distancing himself from himself, right, from his inner core, from his neshama, to a place of complete jealousy, right? When we talk about what is jealousy, jealousy is me being very, very into what is going on in somebody else's life, okay? And not being focused enough on myself, okay? So when I move away from dealing with my true essence and being my true self, I can go on this very, very slippery slope. If we see in the Aseret Sadibros on the second side, right? So it's very simple. Lo sirtzach, lo sinach, lo signo, no, 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 no. And then we get to lo sachmo, do not covet. And there's a whole list, right? Lo sachmo is eshes reyecha. Don't be jealous. Don't be jealous of your friend's wife. Don't be jealous of his shore, his chamor, of his Tesla. Don't be jealous of his Eved v'Shivcha. Now that's a hard one, not to be jealous of a cleaning lady, right? Okay. But the Torah gives us a whole list. Why does it give us a whole list? Because lo sachmo, jealousy is obsessive. Jealousy is buy one, get one free, right? It's tit hayavein. It's quicksand. Now, if you notice the word yavein, right, which is like yavan, it's a little yud, then a vav is longer than the yud, and then the long nun is even longer. You put your little toe into jealousy, and then all of a sudden the leg, you give it one finger to take the whole body, right? That's it. What? Yavan, yes. The yavan, the yavein with a tsere means quicksand, but it's the same shorish, you're correct, as yavan. And yavan's midah that they represent is kina, is jealousy. Yeah. Yes, the competition, the gods, think of Greek gods, right? What is all the, I mean, God only, I went to a religious elementary school. I have no idea why we learned Greek mythology, but all that.
So the person jealous is Yavan?
No, Yavein means quicksand. Yavan represents Greece, represents the Yetzer Hara of jealousy.
What's the word? How did we get from quicksand jealous?
But there's a pasuk.
Because the word Yavein, which means quicksand, which is used in Tehillim, for example, in Perek Mem, it's the same letters as Yavan, as Greek, Greece.
They pull you in, and that's what you know.
You get pulled, exactly. You get pulled in, and it's very, very hard to get out. Yeah, you put a little toe in, and you get sucked in. Okay. Okay. So now that we have all this wonderful concepts about we're supposed to have positive thoughts and think, what do we do with all the negative thoughts, right? What do we do with the sadness and the hopelessness and the isolation? I mean, do we even know what we're doing on Rosh Hashanah? People keep asking me, oh, what are you doing on Rosh Hashanah? I'm like, yeah, I'm just taking one day at a time right now. So are we going to go to shul? Are we going to be able to go to shul? We don't know, right? So what are we going to do with all those negative thoughts? So I've actually been thinking about this for a long time. And I started at the end. How are we going to come to Simchas Torah? Come to Simchas Torah.
Really?
How are we going to have hakafos? How are we going to do hakafos? How with the background of everything that happened? And I'm reminded of a story that I read in the book about the Klausenberger Rebbe during the Holocaust. Incredible story. I read the book 30 years ago, okay? And this story has stuck with me for years. It was the first Simchas Torah after the war in the DP camp. And everybody is sitting around, and these are people who lost most of their families, lost years of their lives, tortured, running, hiding in Auschwitz, in Bergen-Belsen. They're all sitting around, and the Rebbe doesn't have the koyach, and neither does anybody else, to open the Aron Kodesh and start the Hakafos and say Ata Hares Ladas. They have no Sefer Torah. So what are they going to dance with? They don't even remember how to dance. They don't remember how to sing. How are we going to do this? And as they're all sitting around and kind of dumbfounded, like, what are we going to do? In walks a couple with their newborn baby. And the Rebbe said, that's going to be our Sefer Torah. And they took the baby and they started hakafos. They said, Ata harei saladas, Ana Hashem Hoshiyana, Ana Hashem Atzlichana. And just like on Simple Torah, we passed the baby to each person gets the hakafa, they took the baby and they passed it from one to the next, and they danced and danced and danced and danced and danced.
Jewish people are.
And that's how I think that can take us into Simchas Torah and into all the Yom Tovim, that we have a future. And our future is a beautiful future. When you mentioned, right, that the Chayalim, how they're Giborim. I mean, if we look at the world, right, the world, teenagers, right, 19-year-olds, 20-year-olds, 21, 22-year-olds plus have become a hedonistic, narcissistic society. And we have our teens, our 19, 20, 21, 22-year-olds, etc., who give up everything. And many of them volunteer to stay in Miluim longer than what they have to, okay? And they give up everything. They have nothing, right? They literally have they don't even change their socks for like 3 weeks at a time, okay? They don't sleep normally. They don't sleep in a bed. They don't go to the bathroom in a bathroom, okay? They eat cans, corn and bread. And when the lovely saftot come and make them barbecues and stuff like that, which, you know, it's not always the ones who are deep in Azad, doesn't happen too often, right? And yet they're doing it, and they're doing it b'simcha. We have a tremendous future. We have a different future than every other nation because we're living for a higher purpose. So as Rabbi Nachman says, sometimes you have people who are dancing and there's that person sitting on the side that's just not in the mood, right? They're just not in the mood. So there's two ways that we can get that person in the circle. Or we schlep them and we say, leave your troubles behind and come dance, right? Or we tell them, says Rabbi Nachman, bring all your pain and dance with your pain in the circle. And that's a very different dance, because that's a dance of elevating, of complete elevation. So we live in this dual reality, but the question is, where do we want to focus, right? Yes, we have pain. Yes, we have joy. That's how the Navi Yeshayahu describes the day of Rosh Hashanah. Pachad v'rochav bilvavech. Fear and expansiveness in your heart at the same time. Fear contracts, constricts the heart. Joy opens the heart up, right? Here we have both together. We can experience both together. So what are we going to do with these negative thoughts? So in my mind, this is my like rating of negative thoughts. There's flies, they're annoying, right? But they don't hurt, right? And then there's mosquitoes, which make noise, are annoying, and they bite and leave an itch. Then there's the next higher, there's bees, right? So bees also make noise, they make the noise, and their sting is worse than the mosquito, okay? And then there's wasps, okay? And you can keep going if you want, but I only have 4. In my negative thought, that's what I have. So there's the flies, they're easier to deal with, but there's sometimes more of them, and they're annoying. And there's mosquitoes, which are those negative thoughts that actually make an impact on us, okay? They sting, they hurt. And then there's bees, which not only impacts us because they can hurt us, but they also, I mean, it's amazing. I taught for 27 years. Do you know what can ruin the greatest lesson? A bee. Do you know what a bee comes into a classroom? You can have girls hysterical, screaming, as if like, I mean, come on. And as if, yes.
The fear of fear, you said it earlier
The fear
today.
of fear.
The biggest
Oh,
fear
it's also the drama. You know, it's like the bee. Do you know that most bees are male and they do not sting, right? Most bees that you will encounter do not sting. But yet that bee has tremendous power,
But
just like there's negative thoughts.
thought.
There's just like there's negative thoughts, which we give them power. And then there's wasps, right? And those we give them they're scary, okay? Because that really hurts, really, really hurts,
But
okay?
bees don't sting unless, just out of nothing.
Yeah.
Well, wasp will.
The
but
bees do not sting unless they're provoked.
Right.
Okay, so that's what people say.
But how do we
Okay.
know that he is
So my
going to do?
sister-in-law has
We don't
bee,
know.
like bees as pets, and she says that you don't go near them, like they don't wanna bother you most of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have like, they grow, they.
They have
Honey.
hive.
But also wasps, so wasps they can kick.
No, so she
Wasp
said
is
that most
dangerous.
people are stung by wasps, that they think it's a, they don't know the difference. And so it's like really
Just
annoying.
now I
because majority
understand
of
what
people
you
are
said
not-
about fear.
So
Yeah.
there's the Maggid Mimezrich has a very interesting Torah about what to do with negative thoughts. So he divides the negative thoughts into two kinds of negative thoughts. Negative thought that pops into your mind from nowhere, okay? Not something that you were thinking about, not something you were reading about the day before, not something that has been, but all of a sudden, you know how we have these like archives in our mind? All of a sudden, boom, oh my gosh, like 30 years ago, somebody said that to me and that really hurt. Like, where did that come from? So the Maggid says when that happens like that, Hashem is literally talking to us and telling us you have unfinished business with this idea. So instead of trying to get rid of the thought, which we're going to learn never works, right? Say, okay, Hashem, help me to peel the message here and understand, right? What is it that I have with this inyan? Where do I need to love more? Where do I need to forgive? Where do I need to do my work here, right? Where do I need to work on jealousy? Do I need to work? What is this thought telling me? The thought is a teacher. Okay. Thoughts that we were reading about something, thinking about something, and we think about those thoughts. That's not like that's not what it is. We're thinking about it, right? But if all of a sudden from nowhere, out of left field, comes this boom from your childhood, right? Hashem is telling you, you have inner work to do. You have inner child work to do. You have something to work on with this specific incident or feeling or event that happened. Okay. So I thought that was a very fascinating idea. The Baal Shem Tov gives a suggestion: exchange a thought with another thought. You can only really think about one thing twice. So if you're thinking about something, right, have always at a time, or if you always have prepared something to think about, right? Have a meditation that you could just pull out of your pocket, like Eino Milvado or the pasuk for your name. Okay, always have something that when you start thinking something negative, a jealous thought, a depressing thought, a thought of despair, right? I can flip out this idea and replace it with another.
You can think about the multiplication table.
You could do that too.
And that
Yeah,
works.
it does work.
Mine's on 2, 4, 8, 10.
Yeah, you could sing all those dumb commercials we grew up with, right?
My son told me to say
I
Shema.
mean, part,
What?
it's part.
It's part is better than negative.
Yeah, yeah. At that moment you could, I said Shema, if something hit, they just Shema right away. It's like, so.
Shoshie,
Yeah.
there's makom there, called the buffer who's thinking bad thoughts, not whole thoughts. Buy yourself an ice cream, 3 colors, like the traffic light. Now I'm gonna have a little yellow, now a little white, how does the pink? And eat it and think about it. And then you'll be off the bad trend.
Wow.
Right, that's amazing. That's a great eitzah.
I also heard this idea that our thoughts, where are they coming from? It's not from us, they're from Hashem. So we understand that it's all from Hashem.
Okay, so the Maggid says only bad thoughts that pop into your mind that you weren't thinking about and weren't reading about. He's very specific about that because I don't want to get into it, but that is actually a belief of if you take it the wrong way, that our negative thoughts are emanating from Hashem, it is actually a very dangerous chain of thought that has brought a lot of people to very bad places. Okay, because then they can act on those negative thoughts.
No, but you're not supposed to act.
But the problem is that they take it if it's from, okay, let's drop it because it's a whole long discussion. Okay,
It's a great idea.
so the place, the Baal Shem Tov also says that the place where a person's thoughts are, that is where they exist, right? That was Rabbi Nachman's famous saying, I'm in Eretz Yisrael, even though he wasn't in Eretz Yisrael. He never made it to Eretz Yisrael, despite his many attempts, okay? Because his thoughts, what?
Being in Uman is like being in Israel.
Well, it's where your thoughts are, right? It's where are my thoughts? That's where I am. So if we think, a person wants to think about being in the Beit Hamikdash, or a person wants to think about, again, standing before Hashem, or whatever holy place they want, in Meron, and in the next to the Aliyah kadosh, wherever you want, that is where you are. Okay, and you can always bring yourself into an existence on a higher sphere. So those are all great eitzos. And my favorite one, though, is from Rabbi Nachman, who says that if you have a negative thought, change it into a prayer. Right? So let's say example, jealousy. Okay, a person is jealous, and I'll send also, I have 10 examples of negative thoughts and prayers for those negative thoughts. Now don't cut and paste, right? That's not the point. The point is to, again, it's your own unique prayer, right? That's the whole method here. But just sometimes we need some ideas to get our minds going, right? So a person is jealous. So this is what I have for jealousy. Please, Hashem, help me find joy in the success of others, and guide me to discover my own path of fulfillment. Strengthen my faith that my own blessings will come at the right time. Help me grow from this and develop gratitude for the abundance in my life. Okay? So I think, again, that's not something you're going to make up on the spot. Okay? Anxiety or annoyance, right? Help me to cultivate patience and understanding. I wrote this actually when I was thinking about it. I don't know, like this is one of my nisyonos that follows me, right? I come to shul and want to daven, and I get really in the mood. I get really into the davening, and then all of a sudden, like somebody comes with like a toddler, sits down next to me, opens up Bamba or some kind of like, and it's like, and like throwing it on the floor, or there's talking, or there's like noise, or like, oh, do you mind switching seats with me? And it's like, huh? Like you're in the middle of a different planet, and all of that is fine. I mean, people need to, I'm not the only person in the world. So I want to ask Hashem for help with that, not to be annoyed or angry, get angry, right? So Hashem, help me cultivate patience and understanding. Help me focus on my own prayers. Help me remember what it was like to be a young mother with toddlers, right? Teach me to approach others with kindness, and may our prayers be answered, right? Fear of the war. A person that all of a sudden is very scared, right? Hearing booming or sirens or whatever it is, right? Okay, that was scared. We turn to Hashem, we can daven and ask Hashem with a tefillah. So when we get into a negative thought, we have anxiety, frustration with personal defects, right? I get frustrated with myself sometimes. Like, why do I always do this, right? Why do I always say the wrong thing? Or why, where was I?
About the war.
No. I'm trying to think where I was someplace where I was like very upset with myself. Like, why didn't I make a better conversation with the person or express myself better, right? All those frustrations with self, we can turn them into a tefillah, right? Hashem, please, instead of getting all worked up about what's wrong, let's put it into a tefillah, which is full of hope, full of possibility, and turning to Hashem and asking for help. Okay, so I want to end with two thoughts. I'll try to make it quick. And that is, I think that this year, and this is a concept, an idea that I heard from Rabbinic Rachel Bazak. Wow, she's incredible. Okay, and I heard this idea from her, and I ran with it. I just love it. And the idea is as follows: this year, we should all employ Rav Levi Yitzchak Miberditchev to be our lawyer on Rosh Hashanah.
Yes.
Okay, and what does it mean to employ him? We could light a candle for him, give tzedakah erev Rosh Hashanah. It's Rav Levi Yitzchak ben Sarah Sasha. And imagine, and I think this is
what shall we say? What shall we say again?
the Ilui Nishmas in the memory. It should be an Aliyah for his neshama of Levi Yitzchak.
Is his Yortzeit or?
I'm sorry?
Is it his Yortzeit?
No, his Yortzeit is right after.
Okay, so
But he's the Sani Gor. Say Levi Yitzchak ben Sarah Sasha. I am employing you, right? Sarah Sasha. Sarah Sasha. Yes, it's interesting how the name Sasha was very popular and is not anymore. In any event,
Employ him
I
to.
couldn't understand.
okay, so Shnia, afterwards I'll explain to you. Let me just finish the idea because we only have 4 minutes left. So imagine what Rav Levi Yitzchak is going to do on Rosh Hashanah, right? Imagine this giant scale gets pulled out in the Bezdin Shomal. And here comes Rav Levi Yitzchak. And he comes with all of the hundreds and thousands of pairs of tefillin that were donated to Chayalim, that people started putting on as a zchut for the war, as a zchut for the Chatufim to come home. You know, there's this amazing woman, one of the mothers of one of the Chatufim, whose name, Bar, their last name is Bar, who she said, because my son can't put on tefillin while he's in Gaza, he's still being held captive, I want to find people who've never put on tefillin to put tefillin on for him every day. And it started with one person, and then two people, and then 3, and 4, and 5. And I think there's over 1,000 people in Israel who they got a pair of tefillin, and they're doing it for all the chatufim, not just for her son, right? Who put on tefillin, never put on tefillin before, put on tefillin every single day as a zchut for the chatufim. Rav Levi is going to put on all the tzitziot and all the tefillin, and then he's going to take out all of the food, right? All of the food that was sent, and all of the clothing and the sacks that was sent, and all of the hafrashot kala, and all of the cars that drove all over the country. And he's going to be putting this on the scale, and putting this on the scale, and all of the tzedakah money, and the tziyud, and the helmets, and the vests, and the madim that were sent from our brothers and sisters in Chutz La'aretz. He's going to put it on the scale, and put it on the scale, and the scale is going to break. There's no question, right? And he's going to keep bringing it out, even after the scale breaks. We've had a year of where Klal Yisrael has done tremendous, we have tremendous zchuyot. And we need the koyach and the neshama, the soul of Rav Levi Yitzchak, who's going to be our sanigor, who's going to go before the Ribbon Shalom and say, look, but how do we have to have it within ourselves. Say, look, we're looking at other people. We're saying, look what Klal Yisrael, we did this together. Right? We did it together. The war effort has been together. There are those who are the daveners. There are those who are the learners. There are those who are the ones who are cooking. There are the ones who are giving tzedakah, money. Everyone is doing something. Everyone is doing something. And we're all doing it. So this puzzle is being put together. And that's the mentality that brings us to zchuyot. And I want to just end with what the Bnei Yisachar says, because I think this is one of the most important things that we have to know about davening and Rosh Hashanah. The Bnei Yisachar writes that we all want Yeshuot, right? We all want salvation. We all want the biggest Yeshua. And Rosh Hashanah is a day which is misugal for that. It's auspicious for that. But we have a little problem. What's the problem? Sharei demos lonin alu. The gates of tears are never locked. But if there's gates, that means that there's some kind of filtration process going on here. Because, if you never need to close the gates, then why would there be gates, right? If it's always open. So there's sometimes we ask for things that Hashem can't give us. It's not good for us. A person davens for a specific job or a specific house or a specific shidduch, and that wouldn't be good, right? You think you want that shidduch? Oh, you didn't meet his mother, right? Okay, so you don't want that shidduch. It would not be good for you. This one's going to ruin your life, right? But you don't know that. So you daven, and Hashem saves you from falling into that shidduch. Okay, so the Bnei Yisachar says, but there's a way, there's a communication, there's a tefillah called Hudaya, which is thanksgiving, which is gratitude, and that has no gates. There's no gates. So the Bnei Yisachar says the most important bracha that we're going to say on Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, the Aseret Simei Tshuva, every day of our lives, is the second bracha in Shemona Esrei. When we say Mechalkel Chayim B'Chesed, Hashem sustains life through loving kindness, right? We should stop. After each couple words, stop and think, and literally make lists and lists and lists, and thank Hashem for all of the things that He gave us, material things. That again, every time we walk into a makolet now, do you know what a miracle it is that we have food? And not just food, but we have choices. Where do we have eggs from, right? Eggs. Remember in Corona, we didn't have eggs Erev Pesach. Now they're bombing the chicken coops. And how do we have eggs? How do we have milk, right? This is a miracle. Look what Hashem, and we have a choice too. We have choices of all different kinds of cheeses. We have choices of different kinds of honey. Wow, look at what Hashem gave us. Clothing, right? How many, I asked in the seminary, and I taught last week in the seminary again for once a year go back, right? I said, I always pick one girl. How many black skirts do you have? She's like, here or in America? I'm like, here. She goes, 7. I'm like, how many do you need? She's like, 1. I'm like, no, you need 2. 1 for Shabbos, 1 for weekday. We could say 2. Hashem gave you 7 black skirts, right? We didn't even get to blue and other colors. 7 black skirts. Look how much Hashem gave us. Then I asked her how many pairs of shoes. She said, I pleaded 5th, right? Which means she has more than enough. Okay, so Hashem gives us so much to stop and thank Hashem for even the little things, for the colors that Hashem gives us in food, and thank and thank and thank. Mechalkel chayim b'chesed, mechayim meisim b'rachamim rabim. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, who resurrects the dead with a tremendous amount of rachamim, of mercy. I saw this clip 2 weeks ago, and these are the clips that I love. These are my favorite clips of chayalim coming home. And 2 weeks ago, I saw a clip of a chayal coming home, who, when they evacuated him from Gaza, there were a number of chayalim who were injured together. And he, it's a horrible choice you have to make, the triage, right? The paramedics, they have to decide who gets evacuated first. And they said, we're not taking him because he's not even going to make it onto the helicopter. And they were about to put him in a bag. He was so badly injured. And he had 1.5 feet in the next world. And last week, this is in the beginning of the war. Last week, he came home on his 2 feet, walked into his house. What a miracle. What a miracle. This person, they were going to put him into a bag. And it means also emotionally. How many times did we feel dead inside and somehow Hashem brought us back to life? We had the famous Israeli expression, right? Enli koach. First line you learn in Ulpan, along with the shoulder, right? I knew my kids were Israeli when they started doing this, right? Enli koach, right? I have no koach. How many times did we literally reach 0, negative, and Hashem brought us back? How many times did we mess up Bigadol? And Hashem said, here, I'll help you get up. I'll help you rebuild. I'll help you remake yourself. I'll help you fix it. Right? Right? Think of all the people that were taken out, that did come out. Noah Argamani. I mean, pick your favorite, or whichever image stuck. Hashem, thank you for freeing her. Mati Asur, this is what Hashem does.
On the Father's birthday.
This is the more we think, the more we thank, the Bnei Yisachar says, the more we are bringing more miracles and Yeshuot into the world. The more we recognize it, the more we say, this is a miracle. This is a miracle. Hashem, thank you. The more we can't even go on to the next words because we're so overwhelmed with gratitude. Thank you for bringing these people back. Just like we said before, how many people were healed. And the Bnei Yisachar says, think a lot when you say Rofa Cholim about all the people that were healed. Because we tend to focus on our long list of people who are not yet healed, instead of focusing on people who are healed, right? And Hashem has healed so many people this year, so many people, physically, emotionally, how much healing came into the world. Again, and the Bnei Yisachar is marich, he speaks a long time about the Rofa Cholim. And this is how the Bnei Yisachar says we open up gates of Yeshua. It's all in our head. It's all where we're focused. It's what we're focused on. That doesn't mean that we don't ask for other things, right? I'm not saying don't. I'm saying, but you can only have main focus on one thing. Focus on the gratitude. And thank you, Hashem, for the miracles that we do have. Thank you, Hashem, that Hashem Yishmor, and this is how I comfort myself all the time, even when we do lose life, right? And today is the shloshim of the 6 hostages, it was only 30 days ago. It seems like forever. Wow. Today is their shloshim, that they died for a higher purpose and they lived for a higher purpose. And that's something amazing. That's not something that everybody can say. Only we can say this. Only Klal Yisrael can say this. It's what we say in the Hadran. Anu amelin v'hem amelin. We work hard, they work hard. We all do the same. Everybody works hard. Nobody gets a free ride. But anu mekablim schar. We get rewarded. We get rewarded because we're doing it for a whole nother plane. We're living on a whole nother plane. Everyone should have a ksiva v'chasima toiva, shana tova, shana geula, shana of kedus, a shana filled with all the good things that we're all waiting for. Bezrat Hashem.
It's sharpshooter and he was in Syria, Gaza, everywhere. And I'm on Romer, he crossing the street near his house, he got an R. He so thought it was like really, really bad. Because he was in the army, he was really, really built. So